Hey guys, it's Troy Francis. Welcome to another video on my channel, The Dating Game with Troy Francis. It's another whiteboard deep dive, and today we're going to be talking about the very worst things that a man can do in dating. Okay, so look, here's the deal, all right? In modern dating, emotion is king, okay? Emotion is everything to modern women. And as we've said before, what guys think is it's actually logic. They approach the problem of modern dating with logic. They don't approach it with or in terms of emotion. So they think, okay, right, nice suit, nice car, nice watch, good job, decent, go to the gym, equals I should have an attractive girlfriend or I should have women falling into my lap. And while all of those things are good, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you shouldn't have any of those things or aspire to those things. What it lacks is the emotional component, because all of those things are they're baseline, really. I mean, yes, obviously, she would like to be with someone who's decent looking. She'd like to be with somebody who's got a bit of money or whatever. But routinely, women will sleep with dudes who don't have a job, or they're addicts, or they're on drugs, or they're living in their mum's basement, or they're sleeping on a mattress somewhere, and they're covered in tattoos, and they're not socially responsible, and all of that stuff. Okay, so why is that? Why would that make sense? How can that possibly make sense in that dynamic? Well, it's because those guys, on some level, are providing emotion, okay? They're providing some sort of emotional stimuli to her that she's not getting from the boring chode who's got the nice suit, and he's got the good job, and he's got the 401k, but he's not bringing the feels, okay? So emotion is king in today's dating marketplace, and particularly now. Why? Because the status of everything has changed, because we now live in a society where, of course, women earn their own money. In many cases, they'll earn more than men. In many cases, women are educated more than men. In many cases, women are given arguably a leg up in society that men aren't given these days. They're looked after often by the government if that's necessary. So women don't rely on guys to be providers any longer. This has been going on for a long time. And so the things that women are now screening for are different to the things that perhaps they were screening for decades ago, back in the 1950s or a little bit later, right? Now what they're looking for is, okay, more of the external stuff. And yes, of course, looks does come into that, but even more than looks, it's like, okay, how does this dude make me feel? Now, people are gonna not believe that. People are gonna write crap in the comments and say, no, it's all about looks. It's all if you're 7'7" and you're an Adonis, then fine, you're going to get laid. Obviously, yeah, you're going to get attention for sure. But equally, there are dudes who we teach frequently who are good looking, and they go to the gym, they work out, they're in good shape. They're not really pulling a muscle, okay? Why is that? Well, it's something to do with the way they're coming across. It's something to do with the way they are presenting in front of these women they're seeking to date. And a way to crystallize that down, a way to sort of encapsulate the whole thing is they're not making the woman feel anything. They might think, yeah, he's good looking. They might think, okay, yeah, he's, decent looking guy, whatever. But that's not really enough. Or at least, and look, it might be enough. It might be enough for a short period of time. She might date that guy for a bit. But you're not really setting anyone's world on fire unless you're making them feel emotion. And that, as I say, is the key thing. And really, when we talk about game, in inverted commas, in today's society, what we're actually talking about is, okay, so in that initial approach or on that first date or the second date or whatever it is, how do I channel my inequalities so that I can make her feel something? How can I make her feel some sort of emotion that's connected with me? And look, the emotion doesn't always have to be positive. We're going to see that in a second. It's kind of helpful if it is. I mean, it's not bad if it's positive. But actually, when we talk about disagreeability, an element of being disagreeable is that can actually be quite an attractive quality for women. A lot of this stuff is counterintuitive. All right. And this is not what they teach you in the mainstream, but it's true. So anyway, let's have a look. So in terms of the kind of emotions that you want to elicit in her, there could be a long list of these. I haven't written a long list, but there could be a long list. But I mean, look, you want her to feel sexy, basically. And I always say to clients, I mean, I teach a big part of what I've taught it has been day game, right? So walking up to somebody in the daytime and having a conversation with them, with her, and getting contact details and then setting up a date at a later time, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. But those interactions, the best of those interactions are when there is a degree of flirtatiousness there. Now, it might not be spoken, it might not be verbal. It might just be the way that you look at her, the way she looks at you. Maybe you touch her arm or something like that, just very light. We're not talking about anything inappropriate. We're not talking about anything crazy. But there is an undercurrent, there is a crackle, there is a frisson of flirtatiousness and sexuality underneath that thing. And when that happens, those interactions tend to be the ones that lead to her responding to your messages and coming out on the date and so on and so forth. Okay. So ideally, you want her to feel some sort of sexual energy between the two of you. Now, you can't always make that happen, of course. I mean, there's many women who just aren't going to be interested in you for whatever reason. You're not her type. She's got a boyfriend. She's married. You're just whatever, right? I mean, whatever you did, she's just not going to feel that way about you, and that's fine. But there are women where she would be open to you, and it's down to how you are putting yourself across. There's going to be whether, okay, she thinks, oh, well, right, okay, this guy's got a sexually kind of vibe about him or not. And this is why in other videos I've talked about sexual shame and the importance of getting that side of things handled, because you've got to be comfortable with presenting as a sexual entity, all right? So that's the first thing, ideally you want to make her feel that. She's sexy in your presence, or she thinks you're sexy, or there's a sexual spark between the two of you, right? Because if you get that, that's kind of the underpinning of everything, isn't it, really? Or at least it is as far as attraction is concerned. And what we're looking for here in the initial stage is to spark attraction. Now, you might say, yes, Troy, but I'm looking for a good, high-quality woman so I can settle down and get married. Okay, fine, but she's still got to be attracted to you, okay? It all has to stem from attraction, and this is really what attraction stems for. But being funny, women always put on their dating profiles, don't they? Oh, guy with a good sense of humor. Yes, it's true. You don't want to be standing there doing a stand-up routine. It's not about telling jokes. It's not about, coming out with these perfectly crafted quips or scripted like little anecdotes and things like that. But you want to be broadly like amusing. You want to be fun. You want to be teasing, playful, right? Playfulness, such a big part of this. You don't want to be this heavy kind of dull, weighty sort of a dude. You want to bring out that kind of humorous side to the thing, so that she feels there's some positive emotion here as well, right? She's like, okay, this guy, yeah, he doesn't take himself too seriously. I can be myself with him. He will tease me a little bit. He'll banter with me. This is cool. This is fun. Okay, again, because fun, so super. I should have put fun here, actually. Fun, super, super important. Are you challenging? Okay, are you somebody who's you've got your opinions. You're not afraid to voice them. I'm not suggesting getting into huge political arguments on the first date. I don't think that's a particularly productive thing to do. But at the same time, if she says something and you just don't agree, then don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to voice that. It's fine, right? It's better. It's good. Because otherwise, and we'll talk about the opposite side of this in a second, but you don't want to be kissing her butt the whole time, right? You don't want to be just agreeing with her for the sake of it, because that's going to be very transparent. She's just going to think, okay, this guy's just trying to get me into bed. He's saying all this stuff to make me like him, and that's going to be very obvious to her. Okay, so being a bit, challenging is good. Risky. Are you somebody who is a risk taker? Are you an exciting guy? Often I'll say stupid stuff if I'm on a date, like, oh, let's go to Monaco tonight. Let's go to Paris. Let's just get a plane. We'll go tonight. Obviously, I don't mean it. I'm not actually going to do that. But you know what I mean? You want to present as this sort of devil may care kind of person who just does what the fuck he wants. It's much more interesting than being like, well, I've got to get to bed because I've got to be up at 8:30 because we've got the team meeting on Zoom, and I've got to attend. And you know what I mean? Like, you want to present as somebody who has that adventurous side to them, has that impetuous side to them, is ready to go, and just it doesn't take life too seriously, and will just is free. Okay. Now, you might be working a corporate job and you'll say, well, I'm not free because I've got to be up at that time. But you want to give the impression of being somebody who is not constrained by social niceties, by social expectations, who will just do what the fuck he wants, okay? Who takes life by the balls, effectively. And fun, which we've already mentioned as well. I mean, fun, I think, is, I'm trying to remember the line from that Beatles song about she's leaving home when she goes off with a man from the motor trade, and it's something about fun is the one thing that money can't buy. And a more obvious reference is Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Okay, fun is such a huge emotional driver. Okay, are you a fun person, or are you a bit boring? Are you a bit weighty? Is it a bit heavy being around you? Are you trying to talk about philosophy the whole time? There's a place for that, but it's not necessarily in the early stages of the courtship. Okay, it's not on the first date. It's not on the second date. Maybe later on down the line you get into that kind of stuff. But even then, you want to balance it up, and you want to show that you've got this other sort of side to you as well. So the things that you don't want to be. All right, so this is the converse. This is the opposite. You don't want to be boring. The cardinal sin, and coming back to the title, the worst things a man can do. The cardinal sin really is being boring, and this is the trap that many guys fall into, and many guys shoot themselves in the foot. Okay, because they think, oh, I'm going on these dates and then the girls aren't calling me back. It's not going anywhere. It's because I'm not good looking enough. It's because I'm, too ugly. It's because I'm not tall enough. It's because of this. It's because of that. And often it's not actually to do with those things. It's actually because you're a bit of a boring fuck and you're not getting her excited. There's nothing there to grab hold of, right? There's no spice, all right? You want to be bringing the spice, not the spice, the drug. I mean, you want to be bringing the spice, like the excitement, the energy, the vibe, okay? The vibrancy. So being boring is the ultimate sin. And how do you combat that? Well, live an interesting life is the short answer. Not the easy answer, but it is the short answer. The more interesting a life that you live, the better. So obviously, if you're somebody who travels a lot, that's great because you can talk about that. You can talk about the different places you've been to. But otherwise, just be observant. Just the things that you've seen, your impressions of the world, the way that you think about things, and talk with passion and conviction as well, okay? Another important thing actually is tone and tonality. If you're just speaking in this monotone all the way through and it's all very dry and it's very surface level, that's no good either, right? You want to bring you want to imagine like you're an actor and you're bringing these different cadences to it. You're bringing different tempos, your different volume, different speed of your speech. There needs to be some dynamism in the way that you communicate. Okay, so it's not just about what you talk about, although that's important. It's also the way you communicate it. I mean, you could talk about something that, in a way, is quite boring. You could talk about your job. Try to think of a boring job now without offending anybody. But whatever your job is, say it is relatively dull, but you're able to talk about it in a way that makes it seem like, wow, that's. The way he talks about this, he just really brings it to life. He brings, even say you work in an office and you've got this, and the job is relatively boring, but the way that you talk about your colleagues, the way that you talk about the people around you, the power structures you observe, the interactions between the different people, and you bring that to life and you kind of really create this vision in her mind of this crazy kind of little microcosm of society. And you're able to describe it in a way that is engaging and interesting and it incites her interest, then you're going to win her over. Okay, it's a skill. It's not something that's easy. It's not something you can just pick up. It's not something you can watch a video in 6 tips to how to be an interesting conversationalist, and then you just get it. But at least be aware of the dynamics. At least be aware of what you're aiming at, and then go for that. A good thing to do is to watch videos of people that you think are quite charismatic and sort of not copy them, but look at how they talk about things, look at how they describe things, how they tell stories, and maybe there's some lessons that you can learn from that you can bring into your own interactions. Okay, don't be supplicating. So you don't want to be like whatever she says, you go along with it, you agree with it. She's like, oh, this restaurant's shit, I want to go somewhere else. I mean, if it is shit, then maybe you can do that. But you might want to say, no, listen, we haven't given it a chance. Try something else. We'll get you something else on the menu. We're not going to just randomly go somewhere else. Okay, this place is really good. I've been here many times. Okay, you don't just want to just go along with her every whim, because then again, it's going to look like you're kissing her butt. Okay, she's going to think he's just trying to sleep with me. He's just trying to please me, to placate me. Therefore, he's weak. Therefore, he probably doesn't have many other options. And therefore, why would I want to sleep with him? Because it's with you, and she thinks this guy's just super fucking rude. Although actually, ironically, if you pull that off, but you're funny, that might actually be quite attractive to her. But I mean, in general, it's not about just being an arse for the sake of it. Okay, but at the same time, and this kind of links in with the thing about being challenging. Okay, you want to avoid. I mean, I've seen guys. We get guys to go and they'll engage with women in real life. They go and talk to her, say, oh, so what do you do for a living? And she says, oh, I work in McDonald's, I work in this hamburger restaurant. Oh, really? Wow. Oh, amazing. Oh, wow, that's great. And it's like, bro, it's not great. It's not fucking interesting. It's not amazing. It's not particularly, why are you being overly agreeable? I'm not saying slate her. I'm not saying criticize her for the fact that she's doing a part-time job. But at the same time, it's like, don't say that things are amazing when they're not, just to try and get into her pants, okay? Because she knows what you're doing. Everyone else knows what you're doing. It's obvious. It's very transparent, and you just look like a bit of an idiot, okay? You want to be more challenging. And ideally, when you're standing in front of the woman, it needs to be like, okay, yeah, you're cute. I think you're attractive, of course. That's why I approached you. I think I want to get to know you. But also, because I'm a high value man, I want to know, are you the kind of person that I could spend time with, right? Are you cool? Is there something more about you? It wants to be more like almost you're appraising her as much as she's appraising you. Okay, that's what they call flipping the script. All right. So you want to bear that in mind as well. Just be a little bit more you know, appraising of her rather than just trying to please her with everything. Yeah, not being too ready to do her bidding. We sort of covered that one already, didn't we, with the restaurant example. Being eager to please, you know, whatever she says, like, yes, yes, of course, yes, yeah, no worries, okay, we'll go and get ice cream. You know, whatever it is that she says, you just jump through the hoops that she sets you. Again, she's going to be testing you. It's not, there's a balance to this stuff, right? Because it's not that you, if she makes a suggestion, it's a good suggestion. Don't say no to everything just for the sake of it. If she says, oh, you know, wouldn't it be great to get ice cream now? And you feel like ice cream and you think, oh, actually, yeah, it would be. I know this really cool ice cream place. Then go and get ice cream. That's fine. But at the same time, just don't be jumping through every single hoop, because there is going to be an element of her testing you to see, okay, well, how far can I push this guy? Like, what can I make him do in order to get the golden poom poom, or whatever you want to call it, right? So just be mindful of that. And if she suggests doing something that you don't want to do, then don't do it. If you've been out for the evening, you've had dinner and stuff, and then she's like, oh, this is amazing techno club. It's on until 8 a.m. tomorrow, and this DJ's playing, let's go. And you're like, fuck that. Then don't just go to please her, okay? Just be like, no, I'm not into that. There's a cocktail bar I know, we can go there. Otherwise, you know, I'm going to call it a night. But don't just do stuff for the sake of doing stuff just to try and please her, okay? And don't be too, as I said, don't be too impressed. Again, sort of covered this with the Starbucks or the fast food employee example. Don't be too impressed by everything. Don't be like, oh my God, oh, that's amazing. Oh, wow. Oh, you work in a supermarket. Oh my God. Oh, you're studying sociology. That's amazing. Oh, you know, don't be overly impressed by everything, okay? Because most things that people say aren't actually that impressive for the most part. You know, most things that people say are fairly like, oh, right, okay, fairly mediocre. Fine, okay, that's interesting. So what was it? You can probe, you can find out more. So what was it that drew you to that? And if you had a magic wand and you could do anything, what would it be that you'd want to do? But don't just be mindlessly impressed by stupid shit that isn't actually impressive, because again, she's going to recognize what you're trying to do. It's going to look fake, it's going to look transparent, it's going to look needy, it's going to make you look like somebody who doesn't have options, and it's going to mark you down as not somebody that she's going to want to deal with, okay? So those are some of the worst things you can do. The worst thing, of course, ultimately being boring, being supplicating, being too agreeable, too nice, too ready to do her bidding, too eager to please and to impress. They're all kind of all this stuff sort of interconnected, but you get where I'm coming from. Once more, it's not about being this cantankerous arse who's just sort of like rude for the sake of it. I'm not saying that, okay? You've got to have some nuance to this. You've got to have to be a fucking human being about it, right? You've got to have some balance to this stuff. But say what you think, you know? If she says, oh, I really want to go see the Taylor Swift gig because I think Taylor's amazing. Firstly, you probably don't want to take out a new mortgage on your property to go to a Taylor Swift gig. But secondly, you might say, look, I don't like Taylor Swift. I don't think she's very good. You know, you want to say what you actually think, okay? Even if you think on some level there's a risk of losing her, because ironically, you're more likely to lose her, in inverted commas, if you go along with everything and agree with everything, than if you're happy and comfortable for there to be points of difference between the two of you. Because you don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to like the same music. You don't have to like the same movies. You don't have to like the same TV shows, right? That's not what attraction is based in, okay? So be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Be comfortable with there being points of difference between the two of you and you being steadfast. But at the same time, don't create arguments and friction just for the sake of it either, all right? You've got to flow, okay? Be like water. There you go. That's a poignant moment to leave it. So listen, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something from it. Please hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notifications bell so you get updates on what we're doing over here. Give me a like, leave a comment beneath, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye-bye.